If you're talking about it, I'll be talking about it. Dennis Prager here. Join me this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. It's so cold.
How cold is it?
Richard Simmons is wearing shorts that come nearly to the half-thigh region. The Carson classic.
Yeah.
Richard Simmons not exactly current. But,
no.
That's a fun
know
one.
Who he is.
All right.
Yeah, taking your cold jokes all morning long.
Yeah.
Text them into 64636, type in DA.
And your ComEd updates, so less funny.
Yeah,
People suffering power outages, not good. Well, Mike Scott's been on that story as well. So
and it's all over Warrenville, Bolingbrook. It's thousands of people.
And southwest suburbs, too. We heard from Oak Lawn and areas around there. So we'll keep you updated, but moving right along to this interesting story. Julie Royce, she's a well-known Christian author, speaker, blogger, podcaster, radio talk show host, Renaissance woman. She's a journalist and author here in Chicago, and she's produced a special broadcast that's airing on our sister station, AM 1160, WILL, AM 1160, Wednesday night at 6 p.m., Wednesday night tonight, Church in Crisis. It's also airing on 4 other Salem stations across the country, Atlanta, Dallas, L.A., Colorado Springs. She's been doing significant reporting on the scandal at Harvest Bible Chapel megachurch in the Northwest Burbs. And
it's in Rolling Meadows.
Right. Specifically, it's Pastor James McDonald. The special broadcast I mentioned that's tonight at 6 p.m. on YLL covers that scandal, as well as the Willow Creek scandal and several other prominent evangelical megachurch pastors who've had scandals in the past years. And not all scandals are created equally, so we want to distinguish the two. I mentioned the Harvest Bible Chapel scandal with McDonald in the vernacular, sort of the Me Too within the clergy, but it's not really. That's not really. It's most of at least the reporting I've seen revolves around alleged financial improprieties and management style, and more so than, again, with McDonald, anything I've read at least that has anything to do with inappropriate conduct towards women or others of a sexual nature. But for more on her special and this topic generally, we're pleased to be joined by Julie Royce. Julie, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, great to be with you.
So just kind of lay out the case with respect to McDonald and Harvest Bible and what exactly happened, is alleged to have happened, and where things stand within that church.
Yeah, well, the first thing that happened is that they filed a lawsuit against me and 4 other defendants, and this is when I was working on my investigative report for World Magazine. And I actually, at that point, hadn't published anything. Wow. It was sort of a preemptive move. And so that was the first thing that made headlines. But then in December, I published a World Magazine expose on Harvest Bible Chapel and reporting about things like you mentioned, Dan, a culture of fear and intimidation there and incidents of bullying that were reported by former elders and staff there, but also financial improprieties. For example, just one of the examples was that McDonald has a broadcast ministry called Walk in the Word, and I discovered that they had actually spent money that had been donated to Walk in the Word, this broadcast ministry, to actually fund a whitetail trophy deer herd up at a camp that they have in Michigan. So, I mean, there's people donating to a broadcast ministry and their money going instead to buy airtime for a deer herd. So kind of some wild stuff going on. So after that, that created quite a bit of stir. And then Harvest actually pulled their Walk in the Word broadcast off of about 2,000 radio and TV stations. Again, I think that may have been a preemptive move. A lot of station managers saying that they were going to pull the program anyway. And then just recently, Harvest said they were going to put James McDonald, their senior pastor, on an indefinite sabbatical from teaching and leadership in Chicago. But they have 7 campuses in Chicago. They have an 8th campus in Naples, Florida, and they said, well, he could keep preaching and teaching down there. The pastor, the lead pastor of the campus down in Naples, objected to that and said, you know what, if McDonald isn't fit to preach in Chicago, he's not fit to preach at my congregation down here in Naples, and he didn't want him to preach there, and actually asked to be removed from being under Harvest, and for that he just got fired from Harvest for doing that.
What
so,
exactly did he do, though? What did he do? What did Pastor James McDonald do?
What did he do? Well, again, there's a number of accounts of bullying. For example,
right.
There's an account that a former elder's wife told me about where he had put up pictures of elders' wives up on a wall and shot it with a pellet gun, and this was discovered by some folks. But other folks saying, he's creating just a culture of dread and fear among the staff there. But again, there's also the financial issues, and one of them is him saying that he was going to downsize from a 6,700 square foot home that he owned. He used to own Senator Peter Fitzgerald's home. But then it turned out, after he said that, it was discovered that he had built an actually larger home, a 6,900 square foot home with a 10-car garage and a 2,000 square foot finished basement. And this is, again, after he told his congregation he was going to downsize. So also allegations of some deception and not being very forthright with the congregation.
And so it's sort of this, maybe this is too strong a comparison, but James Baker or Creo Dollar or whatever these televangelist guys are that live the lifestyle of the rich and famous on the contributions of their congregants. And if you're not transparent about it, then people legitimately have a problem with it.
Yeah, there's a number of allegations. And again, there was a very public excommunication of 8 former elders back in 2013. And it turns out, and I discovered this in my investigating, that they got excommunicated after they had sent a letter to the current, after these former elders sent a letter to the current sitting elders saying that James McDonald lacked the qualifications given in Scripture and had some disqualifying qualifications like love of money and outbursts of anger and things like this. And for reporting him to the elder board, the 2 sitting elders that were still, not sitting, former elders that were still at the congregation, actually got excommunicated. So, I mean, there's just sort of, again, a culture when you talk to the former elders, the former staff, of just a character flaws in the pastor that aren't being addressed. And again, I think the Jim Baker thing is probably a decent comparison with the way that the money is being dealt with.
And the reason that you chose to pursue investigating this case and other cases is what? Is basically sort of being a good steward of your own, essentially being an accountability check within your own Christian circles, as opposed to waiting for or allowing the D.C. Press Corps or somebody or the Chicago Press Corps in this case to do something about it. Is that we should mind our own shops? Is that sort of the disposition?
Well, yeah, Scripture says that judgment begins with the house of God, and I think when there's situations, 1 Timothy 5:20, for example, says that if you have an elder who is sinning, that you should publicly expose him so that others may take warning.
Yeah.
And so when people came to me and started telling me about these stories of abuse and wrongdoing there, I mean, it wasn't something I really wanted to report on per se, but I felt like there was somewhat of a duty to once people started sharing these stories with me. And really tonight, the special that I'm producing isn't about just dredging up every bad thing that's happened at Harvest or, Willow Creek has had sort of its Me Too movement. There have been other Sovereign Grace churches for 6 years has been embroiled in, whether or not they reported sex abuse correctly. There's been a lot of this in the church, and really I'm trying to look for in interviewing people that can help us process that and really bring some redemptive solutions and look at, okay, what's happening in the evangelical church that we're having so many of these scandals, and how can we fix it? What's wrong, And so that's really the hope with the program.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Catholic. I wish my church would have done that a lot sooner than it did with respect to the sex abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. So, I mean, this is what you're supposed to do when wrongdoing is brought to your attention. So, I applaud you for doing that.
Well, thanks. And again, it is that hope to bring solutions and not just to wallow in the muck of it, And I think we achieved that. Just some really great guests. I have Vonda Dyer on with me. She was one of the people, one of the women who actually came forward with an allegation of sexual harassment at Willow Creek against pastor there, Bill Hybels. But even to hear how she's processed through that and come to the other side. I also have one of the former elders at Harvest Bible Chapel who was excommunicated in 2013 and has since gone through somewhat of a reconciliation process, but also saying, that didn't really happen. But his story of how he's processed through that. And then just some interesting commentary from someone who's with a ministry called 9 Marks that really tries to help equip pastors and church leaders to build healthy churches. So I think we need to take these moments and not just throw stones, but really to try to look for constructive solutions.
Well, the special is tonight, 6 p.m. on our sister station, YLL AM 1160, and it involves 2 mega churches, 2 huge congregations in Chicago, Harvest Bible Chapel, as well as Willow Creek, as was mentioned. She is Julie Royce, Christian author, speaker, blogger, podcaster, radio talk show host, and investigative journalist who's done the work on Harvest Bible Chapel. And you can catch her program again tonight, 6 p.m. on AM 1160 WYLL. Julie, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.